When you look up at the night sky, what do you see? For most of us, the moon is a symbol of peace. It is a quiet silver lantern hanging in the darkness. It guides tides, it inspires poets, and it watches over lovers. But if you look closer, if you peel back the layers of ancient mythology, it is a prison. There is a legend, thousands of years old, that says the moon is not empty. It is inhabited by a single, solitary woman. She possesses the one thing humanity has craved since the dawn of time: true immortality. She will never age. She will never die. She will exist until the stars themselves burn out. But there is a catch. The price of her eternal life was eternal isolation. She is the goddess of the moon, Chang'e. And her story is not a fairy tale. It is a tragedy of cosmic proportions, a story about the terrifying cost of getting exactly what you wished for. Why is she up there? Why can she never return to the earth she loved? And is she a victim of fate, or a prisoner of her own greed? This is the true story of the woman in the moon. To understand why a woman would choose to flee the earth for the cold desolation of space, we first have to understand the world she left behind. It was not the world we know today. It was a world on the brink of absolute incineration. Long before the dynasties and the empires, the universe was ruled by the Jade Emperor. In the eastern seas, there stood a colossal mulberry tree known as the Fusang tree. This was the resting place of the suns. Notice that I said suns, plural. In this ancient era, there were 10 suns. They were the children of the celestial emperor, appearing as massive, 3-legged golden crows. Order was maintained by a strict rule. Only one sun was allowed to cross the sky at a time. Each morning, one golden crow would take flight, bringing warmth and light to the mortal realm, while the other 9 rested in the branches of the Fusang tree. It was a perfect cycle. Day and night, warmth and cool. But the children of gods are often plagued by the same flaw as the children of men: boredom. One fateful morning, the 10 sons decided they were tired of the routine. They were tired of waiting for their turn. They whispered to one another, conspiring to break the ancient law. And so, in a moment of reckless rebellion, they all took flight at once. Imagine the horror on Earth. Humanity woke up, not to a sunrise, but to an apocalypse. 10 blazing stars filled the horizon. The temperature skyrocketed instantly. The rivers didn't just dry up. They boiled. The oceans receded into steam. The rich soil of the farmlands turned into cracked, useless dust. Crops withered in seconds. Animals collapsed in the fields, their skin blistering under the relentless radiation. People fled into deep caves, gasping for air that felt like inhaling fire. It was a global extinction event. There was no night, only a blinding, searing white day that never ended. The Jade Emperor looked down from the heavens and saw the destruction his children were causing. He pleaded with them to return to the tree. He ordered them to stop. But the 10 sons were drunk on their own power. They laughed at the suffering below, dancing across the sky, turning the planet into a living hell. The Emperor realized that words would not save the world. He needed force. He needed a weapon. And so, he summoned the greatest archer in the celestial realm, a god of war whose aim was true and whose heart was made of iron. His name was Hou Yi. Hou Yi descended from the heavens, carrying a bow made of vermilion tiger bone and arrows crafted from the tendons of dragons. Beside him stood his wife, a minor goddess of stunning beauty and grace, named Chang'e. They landed on the scorched earth, the heat nearly unbearable, even for them. Hou Yi looked up at the sky. The 10 sons mocked him, circling like vultures made of fire. Hou Yi did not want to kill them. They were, after all, the sons of the Emperor. He pulled back his bowstring and empty shot. The sound of the divine weapon would scare them back to the Fusang tree. Thrum, the sound rippled through the atmosphere like thunder. But the sons did not retreat. They blazed hotter, challenging the archer. They believed they were untouchable. Hou Yi looked at the corpses of the humans around him. He saw the suffering. He saw the end of life itself. His duty as a guardian outweighed his loyalty to the Emperor's sons. He reached into his quiver. He drew a white arrow. He planted his feet on the summit of the highest mountain. took a breath of the superheated air, and aimed. The first arrow flew. It struck the first sun directly in the chest. There was no blood, only an explosion of golden light. The massive bird fell from the sky, crashing into the ocean, sizzling as it sank. The earth instantly felt a fraction cooler. Hou Yi didn't hesitate. Edre, again, and again, and again. 9 arrows. 9 suns fell. The sky turned from a blinding white to a bruised purple, and finally to a natural blue. The heat dissipated. The rivers began to flow again. Hou Yi reached for the 10th arrow. He was ready to leave the world in eternal darkness. But the emperor, watching in horror as his children were slaughtered, intervened. Or, in some legends, it was the people who begged him to stop, realizing that without one son, life would freeze. Hou Yi lowered his bow. He left one sun in the Skitha sun we see today to keep the world warm. It was a hero. The humans cheered his name. They built shrines to him. He had saved the world from total annihilation. He expected a hero's welcome when he returned to the heavens, but he had made a grave mistake. He had saved humanity, but he had killed the emperor's sons. The gratitude of the gods is a fickle thing. The Jade Emperor was grieving. He could not execute the savior of the world, but he could not forgive the murderer of his children. The punishment was swift and cruel. Hou Yi and his wife, Chang'e, were stripped of their immortality. They were banished from the celestial court. They were cast down to the mortal realm, forced to live among the humans they had saved. For Hou Yi, this was a humiliation. He was a warrior, a god of the hunt. Now, he was just a man with a bow. But for Chang'e, it was a living nightmare. Chang'e was not a warrior. She was a creature of beauty and ethereal grace. She was accustomed to the timeless existence of heaven, where skin never wrinkled, where sickness did not exist, where death was a myth. On Earth, she felt the heavy pull of gravity for the first time. She felt hunger gnawing at her stomach. She felt the cold wind biting her skin. And most terrifying of all, she looked in the mirror and realized that one day, the face staring back at her would age. She would grow old. She would wither. And eventually, she would cease to exist. This existential dread drove a wedge between the couple. Chang'e blamed Hou Yi for their fall. If he hadn't been so ruthless, if he hadn't killed the sons, they would still be in the Jade Palace. Hou Yi, burdened by guilt and the hardships of mortal life, spent his days hunting, trying to find purpose in a life that now had an expiration date. They were heroes to the people, but in their own home, they were tragic figures, haunted by the ticking clock of mortality. It was this fear, this desperate, clawing fear of death that set the next tragedy in motion. Hou Yi could not bear to see his wife suffer. He heard rumors of a deity who lived far to the west, high in the Kunlun Mountains, a deity who held the secret to life and death. The Queen Mother of the West. The journey to the Kunlun Mountains was treacherous. It was a place where the barrier between the human world and the divine world was thin. Hou Yi crossed burning deserts and climbed peaks that pierced the clouds, driven by the hope of reclaiming what they had lost. Finally, he reached the palace of the Queen Mother. She was a terrifying figure, ancient and powerful, often depicted with the teeth of a tiger and the tail of a leopard, presiding over the forces of creation and destruction. Hou Yi bowed before her and pleaded his case. He told her of the sons, of his banishment, and of his wife's despair. He asked for a way back. He asked for immortality. The Queen Mother looked at the fallen hero with pity. She opened a small box carved from jade. Inside was a vial containing a luminous golden liquid, the Elixir of Immortality. She handed it to Hou Yi, but she gave him a grave warning. "This elixir is potent," she said, her voice echoing like stone grinding against stone. "But there is only enough here for one person to ascend to the heavens and become a full god again. If you share it, if you and your wife each drink half, you will not become gods. You will simply live forever on earth, never aging, but never returning to the sky." Hou Yi took the vial. It was storm. He wanted to return to the heavens, but he could not leave Chang'e behind, and he certainly couldn't drink it all and leave her to die alone. he decided that half an elixir was better than nothing. Eternal youth on Earth, with the woman he loved, was a compromise he was willing to make. He returned home, hiding the elixir in a small wooden box. He planned to share it with Chang'e during the upcoming Mid-Autumn Festival when the moon was at its brightest. He told her to guard it with her life while he went out to hunt. But secrets have a way of poisoning the air. There are two versions of what happened next, and the difference between them changes Chang'e from a victim to a villain and back again. In one version of the legend, Chang'e discovered the elixir. Overcome by her desire to return to the heavens, by her vanity and her fear of death, she made a selfish choice. She didn't want to live forever on Earth as a mortal's wife. She wanted to be a goddess again. In this version, she betrayed her husband out of pure greed. But there is another, more tragic version, one that fits the sorrow of the moon far better. Hou Yi had an apprentice named Peng Meng. Peng Meng was a talented archer, but his heart was dark. He had spied on Hou Yi. He knew about the journey to the west. He knew about the vial in the box. One day, while Hou Yi was out leading a hunt, Peng Meng feigned illness to stay behind. The moment Hou Yi was gone, Peng Meng grabbed a sword and burst into the inner chambers. He confronted Chang'e. He demanded the elixir. Chang'e was terrified. She knew she could not defeat a warrior like Peng Meng. She also knew that if a man as evil as Peng Meng consumed the elixir, he would become an immortal tyrant, a god of chaos who would plague the world forever. She could not let him have it. She was trapped. Peng Meng stepped closer, the blade gleaming in the sunlight. He gave her a choice: hand it over, or die. In a moment of panic, instinct, and desperation, Chang'e opened the box. She grabbed the vial. She didn't have time to measure out half. She didn't have time to think about the consequences. To keep it from Peng Meng, she uncorked the vial and swallowed the entire contents in one gulp. The effect was instantaneous. Pain banisade. Fear banisade. A warmth exploded in her chest, radiating out to her fingertips. Her skin began to glow with an ethereal light. Peng Meng stumbled back, shielding his eyes. And then, the gravity of the earth lost its hold on her. Chang'e's feet lifted off the floor. She grabbed onto a table to anchor herself, but the furniture was too light. She floated upward, drifting through the window, out into the open air. She was weightless. She was divine again, but she was also terrified. She called out for her husband. Hou Yi, returning from the hunt, heard the commotion. He ran into the courtyard just in time to see his wife rising into the sky, glowing like a second moon. He realized what had happened. She had taken it all. Grief and rage warred in his heart. He raised his bow, same bow that had killed the sons. He aimed an arrow at his wife. He could shoot her down. He could stop her from leaving him. He pulled the string back, but he couldn't release it. He loved her too much. He lowered the bow and watched helplessly as she drifted higher and higher. Chang'e did not want to go to the heavens of the Jade Emperor. She was ashamed, or perhaps she was banned. She tried to fight the ascent, to grab onto the tops of trees, but the magic was too strong. She looked around the cosmos for a place to land. She needed somewhere close to Earth, somewhere she could still look down and see the man she loved. She steered her spirit toward the nearest celestial body. There! Moon! She landed on the surface of the moon, but it was not the romantic silver orb she had seen from the ground. It was desolate. It was silent. It was colder, bone-deep cold that never ended. In Chinese mythology, the moon is home to the Guanghengeng, the palace of vast cold. Chang'e entered the palace, hoping to find gods or spirits, but the palace was empty. There were no banquets, no music, no warmth. She was immortal. She had regained her youth, her beauty, and her power. She had achieved the ultimate dream of every human being. And in exchange, she had sentenced herself to solitary confinement for the rest of eternity. She was not entirely alone, however. The legends say she found two companions, though they offered little comfort. First, there was the Jade Rabbit, a selfless creature who had sacrificed itself for the gods and was resurrected on the moon. The rabbit spends every moment of every day pounding herbs in a mortar and pestle, trying to create more of the Elixir of Life, Some say Chang'e commands the rabbit to make it so she can send it down to her husband. Others say she hopes the rabbit can make an antidote, something that will make her mortal again, so she can die. Then there is Wu Gang, a woodcutter who was banished to the moon for his laziness and arrogance. He is tasked with chopping down a massive osmanthus tree that grows in front of the palace. But the tree is magical. Every time he swings his axe and makes a cut, the bark instantly heals itself. He is trapped in a loop of futile labor, just as Chang'e is trapped in a loop of futile waiting. They are three tragic figures, sharing a prison, yet infinitely apart in their struggles. Back on Earth, Hou Yi was devastated. He realized that Chang'e had not left him out of malice, but out of necessity. He missed her terribly. On the night of the full moon, he looked up and saw a shadow on the lunar surface that looked like his wife. He set up a table in his garden. He placed her favorite incense on it. He laid out round fruits and sweet cakes, the ancestors of the moon cakes we eat today. He bowed to the moon, not as a god, but as a husband saying goodnight to a wife he could not touch. This act of remembrance sparked a tradition. People began to pray to Chang'e for good fortune and peace. They saw her not as a traitor, but as a guardian angel, watching over the world from her lonely tower. This is the origin of the Mid-Autumn Festival. Once a year, when the moon is at its fullest and brightest, families gather together. They eat round moon cakes to symbolize reunion and completeness. But there is a bitter irony in this celebration. We celebrate reunion in honor of a woman who can never be reunited with her love. We celebrate completeness in honor of a couple that was permanently broken. So, why does the story of Chang'e remain so enduring? Why do we tell it every year? Perhaps it's because it serves as a warning. We spend our lives chasing things we think will make us happy. We chase status, we chase wealth, we chase the idea of immortality. We want to be like the gods, untouchable and eternal. Chang'e got exactly what she wanted. She conquered death. She sat on a silver throne, high above the pain and suffering of the mortal world. She would never know disease. She would never know the grave. But ask yourself, was it worth it? Imagine standing in the vast cold palace. Imagine its silence. Imagine staring down at the blue marble of Earth, watching centuries pass in the blink of an eye, watching your loved ones grow old, die, and turn to dust, while you remain frozen in perfect, splendid isolation. The myth of the moon goddess, Immort. Just a story of a woman soaring to the stars. It's a story about the warmth of death. It teaches us that the beauty of life comes from its fragility. The beauty comes from the fact that life will end. The beauty comes from the fact that we are here, together on this messy, hot, chaotic Earth. We are not trapped on the moon. We are free to love, and we are free to leave. So, the next time you gaze at the full moon, don't just admire its beauty. Take a moment to think of the woman in the shadows, the goddess of eternity, the prisoner of the night sky. She is the most powerful being in the solar system, and she would give it all up just to be human one more day. I'd love to know your choice. Would you choose an eternal life of solitude or a short life filled with love? Leave your answer in the comments below. I'll read your thoughts there. If this tragedy touched your heart, or if you learned something new about the woman in the moon, please like this video and leave your response in the comments. This helps us share these ancient stories with the world. And if you're not already part of our community, subscribe and turn on notifications. We're currently preparing our next deep dive into mythology, and you won't want to miss it. Maybe next time, we'll explore the Monkey King who defied the heavens, or the Greek architect who flew too close to the sun. Let me know what legends you'd like to see next. Until next time, look up, keep wondering, and cherish your mortality.